Well, I thank you for inviting me today. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting Julia, and it's an honor to get to be here today to share my story with you. My first experience talking video conferencing, and doing my talk sitting down. I might wiggle around a bit because I'm used to walking around the stage, but I'm here to tell you about an event that happened in my life just over 6 years ago that could have ruined my life if I had let it. But being a Christian, I know that helped, but I have learned the coping skills that I needed. So I'll just tell you about what happened. On September 16th of 2012, my husband and I were still living in Florida. We actually just moved to Santa Maria. May 31st of this year. We are so happy being in California. Florida's great, but I was there for 55 years. It was time to leave. On September 16th, my husband was working on his master's degree and had just finished his final project and was so relieved we decided to go out for an afternoon motorcycle ride. Nothing unusual, we do that. All the gear, all the time. Anybody here that's a motorcycle rider, please wear all your gear all the time. But so we headed out, just thinking it was going to be a normal Sunday afternoon ride. We were riding over the causeway. We live near Port Canaveral. For those of you who do cruises, it's a huge cruise port. We like to drive over and watch the cruise ships coming in and out. And I was going over the causeway and looking out over the Indian River, and it was a beautiful day, thinking, wow, I love this. The water's so gorgeous. It's just, I love doing this. My very next memory and thought, I'm laying on the ground looking up at the sky and thinking, I think I've been in an accident. And so I start doing the body check. I wiggled my head and thought, well, that's strange. I have something around my neck. And looked at my hands, they moved. I was a massage therapist, so that was important. No real pain, wiggled my back, okay. And then my brain processed down towards my legs. And apparently I said it out loud, was, wow, my foot hurts. And that's when I heard my husband's voice for the first time. And he said, yeah, baby, your foot's bad, but you're okay. And so I knew that he was off over here somewhere. He'd been on his own motorcycle up ahead, so he did not know that I had been in an accident. He did not see it, fortunately. He was waiting for me at our exit up ahead. Someone came up beside him and said, hey, your buddy's in the ditch. And so he had to get on his bike and come back around and find me. Fortunately, the highway patrol was already there because they had been looking for a high-speed erratic driver. Witnesses reported that he was doing at least 90, he or she was doing at least 90 miles an hour when they pulled over on me and hit me. I have no memory of it, thank goodness. And actually left tire tread on my motorcycle where my foot had been. My bike and I tumbled down the side of the road, left divots in the grass. I wore Tourmaster riding gear. My Tourmaster Kevlar riding gear was shredded in places. My t-shirt was shredded underneath my jacket. But somehow I had no broken bones other than my foot. So I'm laying there and I'm looking around. My first thought was, well, was it my fault? And my husband's like, no, it wasn't your fault. Okay. So then I start rattling off my commitments for the week. That I was supposed to be at a friend's house tomorrow morning at 6:30 to sit with their dad while they took their brother to the airport. A couple days later, I was supposed to be taking our pastor to Orlando for his chemo treatments. It's funny how your brain works. Yeah, I was happy to hear that it wasn't my fault. So I'm laying there on the side of the road, wonderful people taking care of me. but yet I had this sense of peace and calm, which was amazing. And I asked my husband later about it, and he said, yeah, your foot looked so bad that the paramedics, one of them did not recognize it as part of your body when he came on scene and kicked my foot because it had been torn up and dragged through the dirt so bad that he just didn't realize it was part of me. And I asked him, I said, well, did I curse at him? And he said, no, you didn't. I said, okay, I was glad to hear that. So yeah, when your mom, growing up, your mom always says, wear clean underwear, you might get in an accident. Yeah, it's a good idea, because you never know, because here I am laying on the side of 528, which is the major highway between the Orlando airport and Cocoa Beach, Port Canaveral. And I realized they're cutting my clothes off me on the side of the road. And so yeah, it's again, very interesting, the thoughts that go through your head at critical crisis situations. But I did realize right away that, wow, this really should have been a lot worse. I didn't know where I was, exactly what was going on physically at the time, but I knew it was bad, but I could move, so obviously I wasn't paralyzed. I've known many motorcycle riders that haven't survived as well. So I got my first helicopter ride. Unfortunately, I didn't have a window seat, and I have very few memories of I don't remember the accident at all, and that right there is such a wonderful thing for me, to not have that memory. But I have just bits and pieces. And in the ER that night, I remember the surgeon talking to me at one point and saying, I'm sorry, Mrs. Turner, I'm not going to be able to save your foot. And my initial reaction wasn't, well, no, that's my foot. Do what you can. Why can't you save my foot? It was, okay, I want to see my husband before surgery, and can I still go skydiving in May? Because I knew for my 50th birthday, I was going skydiving. I've been planning it for years. I've never gotten to do it. And at that point, he said, I don't see why not. And those positive words, the power of positive words, if he had said, no, Mrs. Turner, you're going to be an amputee. You're not going to be able to do the things you thought you were going to do. Your life is going to be different now. I would have gone under anesthesia into surgery. My next real coherent thought was two and a half days later, but that would have been in my head all that time. Those negative thoughts of my life is never going to be good again. I'm not going to be able to do things. But instead, because that doctor, whether he realized it or not, said, sure, I don't see why not, my brain was already in that, okay, I can do whatever I want mode. So, yeah, that was on Sunday night, and Wednesday is when I actually came out of the anesthesia, the heavy medication. I had had a second surgery to close the wounds from where they had done the amputation. They called it agricultural contamination. They were concerned about because there was just so much dirt and grass on the side of the road in my leg. But it's still, I had no other injuries. I had some road rash on my forearm where my jacket had actually slid on my arm so much, and my knee was swollen. I was sore and bruised, but I had no head injury. I had no neck injury. My helmet has scratches literally every direction on my helmet. My face shield, it was a full face helmet. It had gotten pulled up and my face was covered with dirt and my mouth was full of dirt. But yet with all that trauma going on my helmet, my neck was fine. The only time I ended up having neck issues from the accident was with all the visitors that would come and stand beside me, and they'd stand right here next to the bed. And so I was like this, trying to talk to them. And so when they actually, once I got moved into rehab, I had them turn my bed sideways so I faced everybody. So, yeah, so I had 2 surgeries in the hospital, but by Friday of that week, I was actually able to be transferred to a rehab facility where I would start learning how to get around on a walker and in a wheelchair, because it takes a while till you can get a leg. It was a whole new thing for me. They fortunately never offered me crutches because I'm not that talented and coordinated. But so I started learning how to get around and do these things for myself. But what I really learned that was more important in those first few days, that first week, was it's not the events that make us, it's how we respond to those events that make us. My husband and I chose from the very beginning that we were not going to be victims. Yes, I was the victim of a hit and run. Had they found the person that hit me, I would have had to work with lawyers. I'm sure they would have all been wonderful. As far as I know, I never even talked to a police officer because the person that hit me was never found. So yes, I am the victim of a crime. Being a hit and run is a crime, but we chose very deliberately to not identify as a victim and to move forward. The person that hit me, they got my foot, and that did change our life. It changed how we lived our life, what we did. But we weren't going to give them anything else. We weren't going to let this event rule our world in a negative way. So that was one of the most important things that my husband and I together learned from the very beginning during this process. So I was in rehab for a week and a half, and just over 2 months after the accident, I received my first leg and started my physical therapy and walking. And, you know, we were motorcycle riders, but we went to the gym, you know, a couple times a week because, you know, we were approaching 50. You should exercise, right? Well, I had this whole new mindset of, wow, I should be dead and I'm not. We're living on bonus time now. So instead of wallowing in the pain and the frustration of having to get around my house in a wheelchair or trying to get in and out of my car and into the stores without walking in, we chose to become more active. And we're more active now than we've ever been in our life. I turned 50 shortly after the accident. I did go skydiving. It was the most wonderful experience of my life. But I can now skydive the safe way because I keep one foot on the ground.
Good one.
Amputee humor. Okay, you gotta have humor, right?
Right.
7 months after the accident, I walked my first 5K ever. I just never had any reason to walk a 5K. And then I realized, hey, I want to run. I've never been a runner, but why not? So I started running. The foot I had was a great walking foot, not a good running foot. And so I got hooked up with an organization called Challenged Athletes Foundation that granted me a running blade. So now I have a running blade like you see the Paralympians. And in the process, over the years now, last February, I ran my first half marathon. And go Disney Princess, Disney World Princess. I'm actually scheduled to run a half marathon the end of March, but I've been in the process since October of getting a new leg made because this one doesn't fit anymore. And I've done no training because I can't run. So my husband and I discussed it a couple nights ago, and yeah, I'm going to have to withdraw. You know, I haven't run since July, 13 miles in, you know, a month and a half of training. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I'm not giving up on that goal. And it has affected me. Just days I've realized mentally I'm having a hard time with the idea of withdrawing from this competition. And not that I'm anywhere near running to win the race, is for my own race, but knowing that I'm having to withdraw from that competition has been an emotional pull on me. But we're working hard in my head and talking it out that, no, we're not quitting, we're not giving up on my goals, but we are having to live within our boundary. You know, I have to do what is best for my body, and you make choices that way. Since the accident, I took up the running. I actually played sled hockey for 2 years, 2 seasons. A Florida girl playing, I had been to one hockey game my entire life, and that was my freshman year of high school. And yeah, all of a sudden here I am out on the ice, strapped in a sled, and some of the players on our team were gold medal Paralympic winners within the U.S. Paralympic team, played on the local team in my hometown in Florida. And so the experience is amazing of what I have been able to do because of a horrible experience that happened to me. Because we've chosen to not let ourselves be the victims, to not let it ruin our life. You know, I could easily choose every morning, no, I'm not going to get up. It hurts to put my leg on. It's not fitting well. It's uncomfortable. It makes my back hurt. Or I can say, well, all right, I have stuff I want to do, stuff I want to accomplish, and I'm going to get up and go. And that's what I choose to do, because not doing things doesn't make my pain go away. So why sit and wallow in the discomfort and the sorrow and the grief? One of the other things I've learned, most importantly, is to accept the differences in my life. Yeah, my life is different, but this is a new normal. And regardless of what your circumstance is, we all go through trauma, we all go through difficulties, sicknesses. And yes, they're horrible. They can be very life-changing, but we all have a choice as to whether or not we're going to let that event that happened to us change us to be either a negative person or a more positive person. And it's a choice every day, choosing to be happy, choosing to fight, to not let these circumstances win. Anger can be a big part of any event, whether it's a trauma. You know, I could have been very angry at the person that hit me, that they, you know, left me on the side of the road without even a care, apparently. But what good would that have done? It would have given them power over me. It would have brought our world down, and it wouldn't have affected them at all. So I've learned that you have to let go of the anger and not let it eat at you. Anger will make you physically ill. And we've already been through enough in our worlds with trauma, with pain and suffering. And why continue to let that just get worse when it's something you can choose to go past and forgive the person, the event, whatever it may be, even if you don't know them. I don't know the person that hit me, but I had to make it a choice to forgive that person so that it does not constantly niggle in the back of my head, oh, I hope they're rotting, I hope they're miserable. That's not affecting them any. All it would do is affect my health. Life is different, but it's not bad. In reality, since my accident, my husband and I are closer. We're happier than we've ever been because we have a realization of we shouldn't be together anymore. He should be living on his own. I should not be here. And how short life is, that we have no guarantee of the future. And so we have taken this opportunity that happened to us, this event that happened to us, and have used it as a catalyst to improve our world. We guard our world very carefully. We guard our home as far as what we allow in, the stresses that we allow in. We don't watch the news on a regular basis anymore because it brings such negativity into our world. And we've chosen every day to not let those negative things focus in our world. There's enough going on in our jobs, in our community, that we have to be a part of. We're not, we don't have this utopia idea that we can just say, oh, the world's perfect and that's all there is to it. We know it's not, but we can choose to keep our home guarded and safe from those stressors and make our world happy. I wish I could say every day was easy, but it's not. There's some days where I can't put my leg on, whether I get a sore on it or something, have a blister. And so that means I have to use my wheelchair to get around. I'm very independent. And I didn't realize that about myself until after the accident. But I'm also very determined. And so some days are harder than others, but that's okay. We all have hard days. It's just, again, I have to just keep reiterating, it's that choice, choosing each day to be happy, to accept where you're at, what's happened, and whether it's, it still stinks. Sure, I'd love to have my meat foot back, but in reality, I've got 4 left feet. And come Monday, I'm getting a new leg. So happy thoughts on Monday that it will fit comfortably, because it's also a foot I'll be able to run on without having to change into my running blade. So I'm excited about that idea. But and then I'll have 5 left feet. So key things that I have found for my success is creating a support system. Not everybody has what I had. Within 2 hours of the accident, I was in the hospital heading into surgery, and there were a dozen people standing in the hallway with my husband, supporting him, supporting me. Not everybody has that, and I recognize that. My support system was amazing. It still is amazing. But I recommend to anybody that's going through any sort of trauma, do what you can to develop a support system, whether it's family, friends. Find a support group. There are plenty of support groups out there for every event imaginable. But just make sure that the support group you're going to actually is supportive and not just a gripe session. I was given the opportunity after the accident. I actually missed a support group meeting 4 months after the accident, and while I wasn't there, they voted me in as the leader. So don't miss any meetings. And so for 5 years, until we moved here to California, I led the support group in Florida and created a second support group for going out and doing activities rather than just being at the rehabilitation hospital. But we were very careful to make sure that our support group was supportive. It wasn't where everybody came and told their gripey stories about how their prosthetist wasn't doing them right, and their doctors weren't doing them right, or the doctors weren't getting them in when they should. Yes, we have those stories, but we also support each other in those stories and encourage that, yeah, I know that happened, but it does get better. And so surround yourself somehow with a support system. Setting goals. When I was in the rehab hospital, my first week, I got a call from a young friend of ours that I had watched growing up, and we had recently received her wedding invitation. And so I knew December 12th, she was getting married, I was going to her wedding, and I told her that night, I am going to stand up and dance at your wedding. And that was the first goal I set. And yes, December 12th of 2012, so 12/12/12, I danced on 2 feet at my friend's wedding. I had a cane with me, but I was on 2 feet walking on my own, and setting that goal, knowing that I had something specific that I was working towards, pushed me to work harder in my rehab and to want to be ready for that. So setting goals, short-term goals that are attainable, are so important. Not, well, I'm going to run a marathon in 3 weeks. Well, no, nobody's going to run a marathon with 3 weeks of training. But to be able to stand up and dance, yeah, we can do that. Now, I do have a long-term goal. My long-term goal is to run a full marathon before I hit 60. Right now, part of the reason I'm kind of having a hard time accepting that I've withdrawn from my half marathon this week is because I have that long-term goal. But I have to keep remembering and that this is not an end to that goal. It's just a slight step back to move forward at a stronger pace rather than to injure myself and not be able to move forward. So a long-term goal is good, but you have to be able to remember that you are going to have to alter your path. When you have something traumatic that happens in your world, again, whether it's a physical injury or a health issue, it does change your world, and you do have to make alterations, but it doesn't mean that you quit moving forward. And then the most important one, though, that I mentioned before, is to not be a victim. Don't allow yourself to constantly believe that you're the victim in this, that it's somebody else's fault and they're to blame and I'm going to stay angry at them, because it doesn't help. Yes, horrible things have happened. This is not something I would have chosen to happen, but I've been able to use it to move forward and grow. I'm stronger now than I've ever been emotionally and mentally. The things I've done over the last 6.5 years, I never would have considered doing. And so in so many ways, I wouldn't actually go back to before the accident now because of the person I am now, the couple that my husband and I are now, the things that we have been able to accomplish because of the trials we've gone through. So as hard as things look when you're in the crisis, there are silver linings. Things can get better if you choose to let them get better. And that right there is the biggest thing, is realizing that your life isn't over. It's just different. And that's okay. Different is okay. And we need to just accept that and keep moving. And that's what I've chosen to do. So yeah, that's my story. Thank you for letting me share it with you.